Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding out that every dollar in your bank account is worth half of what it was yesterday. Sounds impossible. Well, the United States is sitting on a $36 trillion debt time bomb. And when it explodes, your savings, your investments, everything you've worked for could evaporate overnight. This isn't fear-mongering. This is reality. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why your cash might already be worthless. Before we dive deep into this financial catastrophe, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next, because this information could literally save your financial future. Let's talk about numbers that are so massive they're almost incomprehensible. $36 trillion. That's $36,000. To put this in perspective, if you spent $1 million every single day, it would take you over 98,000 years to spend $36 trillion. That's longer than humans have existed on this planet. And this is the debt that the United States government has accumulated. But here's the thing that nobody's telling you. This number is growing by the second. Right now, as you're watching this video, the US debt is increasing by approximately $8,000 every single second. By the time you finish watching this 15-minute video, the national debt will have grown by over $7 million. Now you might be thinking, okay, the government has debt, but how does that affect me personally? Great question. And the answer is going to shock you. Every single dollar you earn, every dollar you save, every dollar you invest is directly tied to this debt crisis. And the methods the government is using to manage this debt are silently destroying your purchasing power. Let me explain how this works. When the government needs money and it's already collected all the taxes it can, it has three options. Option 1, cut spending. Option 2, raise taxes. Option 3, print more money. Now guess which option they choose almost every single time? That's right, option 3. They fire up the printing presses and create money out of thin air. This process is called monetary expansion, but you probably know it by another name, inflation. Here's where things get really interesting. The Federal Reserve, which is America's central bank, has been printing money at an unprecedented rate. During the pandemic alone, they printed more money than existed in the entire first 200 years of American history. Think about that for a second. More money was created in 2 years than in 2 centuries. And every time they print new money, the money already in your pocket becomes worth less. Let me give you a real-world example. In 1970, the average American home cost about $23,000. Today, that same home costs over $400,000. Did houses suddenly become 17 times better? No. The dollar became 17 times weaker. Your grandparents could buy a car for $3,000. Today, that same car costs $40,000. A gallon of milk was 60 cents. Now it's $4. This isn't just inflation. This is currency devaluation on a massive scale. But the debt crisis goes much deeper than just inflation. Let's talk about something called the debt-to-GDP ratio. This is basically how much debt a country has compared to how much economic output it produces in a year. Historically, when countries reach this level of debt, things start to fall apart. We've seen it happen over and over again. Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Argentina, the Weimar Republic, and Germany. All of these countries printed their way out of debt, and all of them experienced hyperinflation that destroyed their economies. In Zimbabwe, inflation got so bad that they were printing $100 trillion bills. A loaf of bread cost billions of dollars. People needed wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy basic groceries. Their currency became literally worthless. Now, I'm not saying the US dollar is going to become worthless overnight like the Zimbabwe dollar. The United States is still the world's largest economy, and the dollar is still the global reserve currency. But here's the critical point. That status is being challenged right now as we speak. Countries around the world are slowly moving away from the dollar. China and Russia have been conducting trade in their own currencies, bypassing the dollar entirely. Saudi Arabia, which has sold oil exclusively in US dollars for the past 50 years, is now considering accepting other currencies. This is massive. The only reason the United States has been able to accumulate $36 trillion in debt without collapsing is because the dollar is the world's reserve currency. It's the currency that countries use to trade with each other. It's the currency that central banks hold as their primary reserve asset. But what happens when countries stop using the dollar? What happens when they stop holding it in their reserves? The demand for dollars drops. And when demand drops, value drops. This is basic economics. And this shift is happening right now. The geopolitics are changing rapidly. The dollar's dominance is under threat like never before. Let me break down why this matters to you personally. When other countries held dollars, they basically loaned the United States money to spend. They bought US Treasury bonds, which funded government spending. This allowed America to live beyond its means, to spend more than it collected in taxes, because foreign countries were happy to hold dollars and buy American debt. But as these countries move away from the dollar, who's going to buy all this debt? Who's going to fund the $36 trillion and growing? The answer is the Federal Reserve. They'll buy it themselves by printing more money. And this creates a vicious cycle. More money printing leads to more inflation. More inflation makes the dollar worth less. A weaker dollar makes foreign countries want to hold even less of it, which means the Fed has to print even more. This is the debt spiral, and once it starts, it's extremely difficult to stop. Now let's talk about interest payments. This is where things get truly terrifying. The US government currently pays over $1 trillion per year just in interest on the national debt. That's more than the entire defense budget. More than what's spent on education. More than what's spent on infrastructure. $1 trillion every single year just to service the debt, not to pay it down, just to cover the interest payments. And here's the kicker. As interest rates rise, these payments grow exponentially. If interest rates go up by just 1 percentage point, the government has to pay an additional $360 billion per year in interest. Where does that money come from? Either higher taxes or more money printing. Both options hurt you directly. Think about your personal finances for a moment. Imagine if half your income went just to paying interest on credit cards and loans, not the principal, just the interest. You'd be broke pretty quickly, right? You couldn't afford groceries, rent, or anything else. That's exactly the situation the US government is heading toward. More and more of the budget goes to interest payments, leaving less for everything else. This brings us to the inevitable question. What happens when this debt becomes unsustainable? When the government can't make its interest payments without destroying the currency? History gives us a clear answer. Currency collapse, economic crisis, severe recession, or depression. And the people who suffer most are ordinary citizens like you and me. The wealthy have assets, real estate, stocks, gold, businesses. These assets often survive currency crises. But if you're holding cash in a savings account, you're going to get destroyed. Let me share some hard numbers with you. Since the year 2000, the US dollar has lost over 40% of its purchasing power. That means if you had $100,000 in cash in the year 2000 and you held it until today, it would only buy you about $60,000 worth of goods and services. You literally lost $40,000 by doing nothing, just by holding dollars. Now imagine what happens if inflation accelerates. If we enter a period of high inflation like we saw in the 1970s when inflation hit 14% per year, or worse, if we enter hyperinflation like Venezuela, where prices doubled every few weeks, your life savings could become worthless in months. Everything you've worked for, gone. This isn't hypothetical. This has happened in dozens of countries throughout history. And the common thread in every single case was excessive government debt and money printing. The exact situation the United States is in right now. So what can you do to protect yourself? First, understand that cash is not a safe store of value anymore. Holding large amounts of cash in a savings account is financial suicide in an inflationary environment. You need to move your wealth into assets that hold value when currencies collapse. Real estate has historically been one of the best hedges against inflation. When the currency weakens, property prices tend to rise. Precious metals like gold and silver have been stores of value for thousands of years. When fiat currencies fail, gold and silver remain valuable. Stocks and businesses can also protect you, especially companies that produce essential goods and services. Even in hyperinflation, people still need food, energy, and basic necessities. Cryptocurrency is another option that many people are exploring. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are designed to be immune to government money printing because they have fixed supplies. Nobody can just print more Bitcoin. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin in existence. This scarcity makes it attractive as a store of value when traditional currencies are being debased. But here's what you need to understand. The biggest threat isn't just inflation, it's the potential for a complete loss of confidence in the system. When people lose faith in the currency, when they realize that their money is being deliberately devalued, that's when things can spiral out of control very quickly. Bank runs happen, capital flight accelerates. The economy can collapse within weeks. We've seen glimpses of this already. In 2008, during the financial crisis, there were bank runs. People lined up to withdraw their money because they didn't trust the banks. The government had to step in with massive bailouts and guarantees to restore confidence. But what happens next time when the government itself is the problem? When it's drowning in debt and can't credibly guarantee anything? The warning signs are everywhere. The debt is accelerating. Interest payments are skyrocketing. Inflation is still elevated despite the Fed's efforts to control it. Foreign countries are diversifying away from the dollar. The political system seems incapable of addressing the problem because cutting spending or raising taxes is political suicide. So they keep kicking the can down the road, making the problem bigger and bigger. Every expert I've studied, from economists to financial historians, agrees on one thing. This level of debt is unsustainable. The only debate is about timing. Will this crisis hit in 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years? Nobody knows for sure. But what we do know is that the longer it's delayed, the worse the eventual crash will be. Here's the reality that nobody in power wants to admit. There is no painless solution to a $36 trillion debt crisis. Either the government defaults on its debt, which would cause a global financial meltdown, or it inflates the debt away by printing money, which destroys the currency and wipes out savings. Both options are catastrophic. The only question is which poison they'll choose. And here's what really keeps me up at night. The American people are completely unprepared for this. Most people have no idea how serious the situation is. They trust that the government will figure it out. They believe their money is safe in the bank. They think their retirement savings are secure. But the math doesn't lie. You cannot have $36 trillion in debt, add another trillion every few months, print money endlessly, and expect everything to be fine. Something has to give. And when it does, millions of people are going to lose everything because they didn't see it coming or they didn't take action to protect themselves. Look at what happened during the Great Depression. People who had their wealth in cash and bank deposits lost everything. Banks failed. Savings were wiped out. The people who survived and thrived were those who owned tangible assets: land, businesses, gold. The same pattern played out in every major currency crisis throughout history. The people who held paper money got destroyed. The people who held real assets survived. This is the lesson of history, and it is about to repeat itself on a scale we've never seen before because never in history has the world's reserve currency been this indebted. So here's my challenge to you. Don't be a passive observer in your own financial destruction. Educate yourself, understand what's happening, take action to protect your wealth. Diversify out of pure cash, buy assets, learn about alternative currencies. Prepare for a world where the dollar might not be king anymore. The $36 trillion debt isn't just a number on a screen. It's a ticking time bomb under the entire financial system. And when it explodes, your preparedness will determine whether you're financially devastated or whether you emerge stronger on the other side. If this video opened your eyes to what's really happening with your money, do me a favor, hit that like button right now. Share this video with your friends and family because they need to know this information too. Drop a comment below and let me know what steps you're taking to protect yourself from this coming crisis. Are you buying gold, investing in real estate, moving into cryptocurrency? I want to hear your strategies. And most importantly, subscribe to the Geopolitics Code and turn on those notifications because I'm going to continue breaking down these critical economic and geopolitical issues that mainstream media won't touch. The information I share could be the difference between financial survival and financial ruin in the coming years. The debt crisis is real. The threat to your money is real. But knowledge is power, and now you have the knowledge to take action. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect yourself now while you still can. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll dive even deeper into strategies for surviving the coming economic storm.